So, today I wanted to talk about something that's not really all that well acknowledged by the community at large. I'm talking about all Elder Scrolls fans here across every single game. Elder Scrolls Legends is pretty unhinged as far as Elder Scrolls games go. Now, it's building off of past Elder Scrolls games, but with that said, a lot of the cards that are actually used in this game are pretty insane when you actually consider the lore implications of them. And I'm not just talking about like huge cards that are very powerful, like being able to play Alduin Down or Parthenax or any other dragon type creature. I'm talking about the weird creatures that this game has in it, or the weird actions that this game has in it. And I wanted to go through and kind of highlight some of my favorites because, honestly, the weirdest cards in this game are some of the biggest reasons that I love this game. You can clearly tell that the devs had such a love for card creation and just some of the random, insane stuff that's in this game. So I think the first card that we need to discuss is the Adoring Fan. The Adoring Fan is he's a creature in this game, and the funniest thing about him is, the fact that he's a reference to a very popular Oblivion character. The Adoring Fan has been used in a lot of Bethesda media since his introduction into Oblivion. If anyone doesn't know, if you're specifically an Elder Scrolls Legends fan, the Adoring Fan is this character that shows up at the end of Oblivion's questline for the arena. So when you become the Grand Champion of the arena, spoiler alert, you get this character that shows up to you, and he's basically begging you to take him on as like your ward, more or less. And he's like, "Can I shine your shoes perhaps? Golly, you're the best." That type of stuff. He's this little wood elf guy, and he's essentially the closest thing that Bethesda had to a child in their games up until Oblivion, because Skyrim was the first Elder Scrolls game, at least, to have a kid in it. So, mainline Elder Scrolls game, as far as I know. So, the Adoring Fan, yeah, he's this kind of annoying character that shows up. He wants to shine your shoes and polish your boots and or polish your sword and stuff. And he's been the butt end of all kinds of jokes. People used to kill him all the time. They take him to that one notorious cliff in Oblivion and drop him off of it.
Yes! Oh, great and mighty Grand Champion! Is there something you need? Can I carry your weapon? Shine your boots? Back rub, perhaps? Aw, gee. You sure? Okay, well, I'll be hanging around the arena grounds if you need someone to worship the ground you walk on. Bye.
And the biggest shtick with that character is that he would always return. There was something in the code, I believe, of Oblivion that allowed the Adoring Fan to return if you took him on as a follower. So if he died, you could always just find him again at the arena grounds and he'd be just back in your party. It was insane. And so people would torment this poor, essentially child, over and over again. And it's one of the things that makes Oblivion entirely memorable. So, the Adoring Fan was made into a card when the Elder Scrolls Legends came out. He is a 3-cost creature. He's a wood elf, because that's what he is in the game. He has a 0 attack power and a 1 defense, which is the lowest stat line that a creature can possibly have. He has the prophecy effect, so he'll show up if a rune is broken on your health bar. And he has guard, because he guards the Grand Champion, in air quotes. He's also immune to the silence feature, which is a reference to the fact that he is very annoying and likely doesn't stop talking to you the whole time after you recruit him, so that's kind of a funny thing. And then he also has the last gasp feature, which means that something happens when he dies. The Adoring Fan's last gasp feature is that he will return. I'm not even kidding, that's exactly what it says. It says Adoring Fan will return. When that is, the card does not specify, mind you. It's just if he dies, he will come back. So you need to be on the lookout for this thing at all times. All jokes aside, the Adoring Fan is actually a pretty good card. It's very well balanced in the fact that it's a unique legendary, so you can only have one of them. Despite the fact that this card is very, very bad in its stat line, it's actually not too bad when you think about the total cost that you're paying for all of the effects that you're getting. So Adoring Fan on the whole is actually pretty good. I just love how unhinged of a card it is. It's like the devs really were actually fans of Oblivion, and they knew how to make the funniest version of an Adoring Fan card. And I think they succeeded. Even the art on the card is hilarious. So thumbs up to them. Moving up next in our list of unhinged Elder Scrolls Legends cards is going to be Horse Armor. So this is another Oblivion-based card. Horse Armor is an item. It's a zero-cost item, and it is, of course, a reference to the Horse Armor DLC from Oblivion. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, let me give you a little bit of backstory. Oblivion was really one of the first mainstream games to have micro DLCs, and Horse Armor was one of those DLCs. Horse Armor, all that it did was give you a really, really dumb, shitty quest line where you're, I don't know, talking to some orc lady from what I remember. And after you complete some mundane task or pay her some amount of gold, she will give you options to equip your horse with armor. And there are two versions of armor that you can have. There's steel armor and there is elven armor. Both of them look really stupid for the most part, and they're equipped to horses, which if anyone plays Elder Scrolls games, you will know that horses are notoriously very bad in Elder Scrolls games. In Skyrim, they are only noteworthy because they can help you climb a lot of the mountains that are in that game. Otherwise, they control like shit, and they just, in general, feel really bad to do combat on. Actually, in Oblivion, I don't believe you could do combat on the horses, so that was just another kind of layer on the cake of awful decisions that had to go into creating the Horse Armor DLC. Yeah, Horse Armor's bad. The only thing that it does is make your horse look a little bit more kitted out, but even still, by Oblivion standards, it looks pretty dumb. So, what did they do with Horse Armor in the Elder Scrolls Legends? Well, another unhinged feature of this game is they made Horse Armor, 1, into a card at all, and 2, they made it into a near useless card, which is essentially what the $5 DLC is going to be once you pay for it in Oblivion. So, like I said before, this is an item, it's zero cost, and it allows the user to get a +1 to defense, which that really doesn't do a whole lot. And the summon effect of the card, which is essentially the effect that the card gets when it's played, is that the wielder becomes premium. So whatever card you equip this to will become premium. Something important to note about that. If anyone has ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon here, you'll know that some cards in the actual trading card game are holographic or reverse holographic. Premium is Elder Scrolls Legends' version of holographic cards. They are in no way different to a normal card, other than the fact that they look slightly nicer in most cases and they have kind of a shiny effect on them. So Horse Armor is literally an item. It gives you +1 defense and it makes the card premium, which actually doesn't do anything. So Horse Armor's almost useless. There is one deck that I know of that actually makes use of this item, but the funniest part of this item that I think really drives home the fact that these developers for Elder Scrolls Legends knew that this was a joke, is that Horse Armor is exclusively premium, and it is a legendary card. What that means is that your likelihood of pulling this out of a card pack is extremely, extremely low. And crafting this card using soul gems from deconstructing other cards in your collection is extremely costly. To craft just one of these, you would need 4,800 soul gems. That is a ton of cards you would have to deconstruct, or a bunch of matches that you would have to win to get those soul gems in various different arenas. Horse Armor, to get a full collection of 3 of them, costs 4,800 times 3. I'm not going to do that math in my head, but it will be displayed promptly right here for you. That's crazy. It's really funny, and because Horse Armor is so useless, it is just as much of a meme in Elder Scrolls Legends as it is in the actual Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So I totally have to take my hat off to the Legends team for creating this card. It is extremely funny, and yeah, not much more to say about that. So after the circus that is the Oblivion-themed cards, we're going to have to move on to some Morrowind-themed cards. The first Morrowind-themed card that I would like to talk about is the Mudcrab Merchant. So if anyone here has ever played Morrowind, this probably will not be a foreign concept to you, but there is a merchant in the game that has more money than anyone else, at least in the base game. Just like the other cards that we mentioned from Oblivion, the Mudcrab Merchant is a very low-cost, low-statted card. So this card is a 1-cost, 1/2 creature, meaning that it costs 1 magic at a play, and it has 1 attack and 2 defense. The summon effect of the Mudcrab Merchant is that the merchant shows you 2 cards he has for sale. You choose one to put into your hand, and he puts the other into your opponent's hand. The Mudcrab Merchant is, of course, a hilarious reference to a very memorable character from Morrowind. The way that Morrowind works is with, not like Oblivion, where there's a fixed amount of money that every single shopkeeper has, and that's what they always have. Morrowind works more on the system of if the person that you're trading with has 1,000 gold, and you sell them something for 500, their total gold will drop down to 500. This means that it can be very, very difficult to sell some of the items to merchants in Morrowind because they are worth a ton of money. So the best method to actually sell off some of your stuff that you don't want is to find this Mudcrab Merchant. I'm assuming that many players, when this game first came out, probably killed the Mudcrab Merchant on sight because he looks just like any other Mudcrab. But when you actually approach him, you can click on him and open up a dialogue with him. And the Elder Scrolls the Elder Scrolls Legends actually added voice lines for the Mudcrab Merchant that were never able to be heard in Morrowind. And because the Bethesda Game Studios team and the Direwolf Digital or the Sparky Pants Studios actually communicated with one another, I would imagine this has to be the canonical voice of the Mudcrab Merchant, and I'll just play a few clips for you right here.
Did I stutter or something? Talking Mudcrab Merchant. Read my lips. Mouth parts.
It's a pretty funny thing overall, and I think that, again, this is another scenario where the devs knew about this obscure reference that they should make into a card when they were releasing the Morrowind DLC, and I just think that's so funny. It shows so much dedication to the actual artwork of creating a card game that's based off of a very well-known franchise. They knew that they had to cater to their audience in some way, and I don't think there's any funnier way that they could have done it than these 3 cards exemplified. And we'll get to more down the line, but Mudcrab Merchant is a great example of a very obscure character that's hidden, that a lot of people love, and they turned him into actually a pretty viable card. The Mudcrab Merchant is actually good if you want to use this thing in a game. It generates not only tempo for you, but tempo for your opponent, and it can provide some pretty interesting scenarios where maybe you draw 2 legendary creatures and you have to give one to yourself and one to your opponent, kind of like choosing the lesser of 2 evils. So all in all, Mudcrab Merchant, hilarious. Definitely give it a try if you don't have it yet. Another Morrowind-themed card that we could not possibly skip over is the Stolen Pants. So Stolen Pants is a 2-cost item, similar to the horse armor, in the sense that you have to equip this to a creature to use it. So what Stolen Pants is a reference to in Morrowind is pretty funny. There is this Dunmer guy, and he is stuck inside of a river, and he refuses to leave the river. He will not go anywhere. He has lost his pants. And so you, as the Nerevarine, the uniter of the houses, the reincarnation of Saint Nerevar, you have to find this guy's stolen pants if you want to help him out in this quest line. The stolen pants are really funny in this because they make full use of both the item and the quest. So when stolen pants are equipped to a creature, you summon a 0/1, that means 0 attack power, 1 defense, again, the lowest possible stat line you can have for a creature. It summons a 0/1 Sheepish Dunmer in the other lane. The Sheepish Dunmer is the guy that's looking for his pants and that's afraid to come out of the water. And then the last gasp effect of any creature that has the stolen pants is that the pants go on to the Sheepish Dunmer. Not only is this a funny card, but it's actually a card that can be utilized to a very high potential. I have a deck on my channel explaining all about the Stolen Pants combo. I call it the Gardener of Pants. If you watch the video, you'll be explained why. But it's a really fun card. And again, it ties nicely into the actual I don't want to use the word lore, but it ties into one of the side quests of Morrowind really, really well, and not only well, but in a funny manner, and a kind of an unhinged card to have in your game. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to our third Morrowind card, and this one should be our last one, and this one honestly is probably the craziest one that they've added. So there is this guy in Morrowind. He's at the Margon Shrine, and he is bound to the plane that he's in by Lord Vivek. His name's Anhaedra, I believe that's how you pronounce it, and he is a Dremora. The thing about this guy is that he is really, really irritable. Again, he's a Dremora, so he's not really all that inclined to be talking to humans in the first place. And there's this option when you talk to him to taunt the Daedra. If you continue to taunt him repeatedly over and over again, he'll hit you with this quote, and it will engage in combat with you. I'm not going to read the quote out because YouTube has this kind of Skynet-esque radar system where they can tell when someone says a no-no word, but this is in the game. It's a real thing that someone says to you, and it's something that not a whole lot of people know about. The the Legends devs decided that it would be a good idea to include this person as a card in their Morrowind DLC, their Morrowind-themed card pack DLC. I can't tell you why, but I think it's really funny that they included him. The Shrine Guardian is what he's called in Legends, and he will say this line when he's attacking, the things I'll do to their corpses. I'll play it for you right now, just in case you don't believe me.
The things I'll do to their corpses.
Isn't that a crazy unhinged thing to have your cards say? It's a reference to a dude saying something absolutely heinous, and they were like, yeah, you know what, we'll just include him in the game anyway. We'll make him a super powerful guard. It'll be fine. Because this guy is kind of a challenging fight if you just go there unprompted and you start taunting him. You might die to him. He's an 8-cost creature, which is pretty high. To keep that in perspective for people that don't play Legends, 8 cost, you can only get up to 12 cost in the game without boosting your magicka through external sources. So 8 cost is pretty high, and he also has 8 attack power and 8 defense. He's a guard, meaning that creatures must attack him before they attack you. And when your opponent summons a creature, you reduce its power to 0 until the start of your turn while Shrine Guardian is out. So he's got a really powerful effect. He's a very powerful creature, and he's got some of the craziest lines out of any creature in the game. I still, to this day, am having trouble wrapping my mind around the fact that they would even include this as a person in their game. But they did, and I think it's pretty funny. And maybe that says something about my sense of humor, but regardless, I share the same sense of humor as these guys, apparently. We've got 2 cards from Skyrim that I really want to touch on as well. One of them is going to be pretty obvious why we're going to be talking about it. It's a 1-cost action, meaning that you just kind of play this thing and it does an effect and then it goes away. So this action is called Arrow in the Knee. And it really needs no introduction. Arrow in the Knee is the crustiest Elder Scrolls meme alive at this point. There's I don't even know what I'm doing explaining this, but I'll explain it anyway. So in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which is 11 or 12 years old at this point, if anyone hasn't played it, there are a number of guards in the game, and all the guards are not really able to be talked to in a traditional sense. You can click on them and they'll expunge some sort of dialogue, but they actually can't have a conversation with you. Morrowind guards, for example, could talk to you about locations throughout the town. You could report certain quests to them. Same thing with Oblivion guards. They would tell you where the local inn is at or where the chapel is at. They'd give you directions, that kind of thing. They'd tell you where the Fighters Guild was at. This is not the case in Skyrim. The Skyrim guards are completely unhelpful. They stand around, and when you click on them, they give you some sort of dialogue based on your progression in the game. So if you have a high sneak skill, they may make a reference to your ability to sneak. If you have a high pickpocket skill, they'll threaten to cut your hand off if they find it in their pocket, etc., etc. There are a few lines of dialogue that are really popular from these guards because every time you click on them, they say something different. But the main one is this one right here.
I used to be an adventurer like you, and I took an arrow in the knee.
The arrow in the knee line is iconic, and I don't really know why. It's kind of just something I'm guessing every player has in their hive mind that's played a game of Skyrim, because it's one of the generic default lines for the guards, and they've only got so many that they could cycle through. So arrow in the knee it is. That's one of the air quotes funny ones in 2011 humor. But what's the effect of the actual card in game? So the effect of the card is that you shackle a creature and you deal 1 damage to it. So shackling means that a creature cannot attack for a full turn. It is suspended where it's at unless a creature frees it from that shackle somehow through various means in the game. So arrow in the knee pretty much does what you would expect it to do as a card, and it's just I don't know if it's a funny reference at all, but it's a reference to something that is another kind of meme in the Elder Scrolls community, and the developers, again, definitely knew what they were doing. So I really applaud the people that designed this game for being able to come up with like 4 very low-key, and then the arrow in the knee is a pretty high-key meme, but in general, the ability to come up with this many joke cards that are actually viable is pretty good. And finally, the last card that I really want to touch on is the prized chicken. So anyone who's played Skyrim is going to be familiar with this. Prized chicken has, again, the 0-1 stat line. It's abysmal. It doesn't do anything. You cannot attack with this creature. It costs 5 magicka, which means that you have to be at turn 5 generally to play this thing. And it has another last gasp effect, similar to how the Adoring Fan had a last gasp effect. The last gasp effect of Prized Chicken is that you fill the lane with 1/1 angry villagers. That means 1 attack and 1 defense. So what is this a reference to? In the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the first town that you go to is Riverwood. And Riverwood has no guards. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but Riverwood has no guards until you go talk to Jarl Balgruuf. It is an undefended settlement. It's actually a pretty young settlement, all things considered. So it has no guards in it, and when you go there, there are chickens running around. And for whatever reason, the hive mind of Elder Scrolls players, people that have never met or talked to one another in their lives, decided to attack the chicken. I was 12 when that game came out, so I have the excuse of being a child and thinking that it might be funny to attack a chicken, but some people don't have that luxury in their life. They're just masochists who wanted to kill an animal. Regardless, if you kill the chicken that's running around Riverwood, and maybe you did it on accident, I don't know, but if you kill the chicken that's wandering around Riverwood, there are no guards there to arrest you. So what winds up happening is that the townspeople of Riverwood will attack you because there's no one to arrest you. Everybody becomes hostile when you commit a crime. And so that's the reference to the last gasp effect of the chicken. If the chicken dies, you fill a lane with angry villagers. These angry villagers are on your side. To be fair, in Elder Scrolls Legends, you're able to attack with them. They're creatures that have some sort of use. But it's a pretty crazy effect. It's a complete joke card. And again, it's one of these things that I cannot really believe that they added into the game. So those are some of the most unhinged cards in Elder Scrolls Legends. I just wanted to kind of get something out on this matter because I have never really seen people talking about this kind of stuff, and I think that it's really funny. A lot of Legends fans, from what I've noticed, are not like... and no shade towards the Legends players, but a lot of Legends fans are not super big into Elder Scrolls, or they're really big into Elder Scrolls. There's not really that big of an in-between. But what I've noticed with a lot of Elder Scrolls fans is that they're not really big fans of Legends because there's not really that big of a crossover between the fantasy role-playing game type thing. I kind of wanted to bridge the gap between those two communities, even though I know there's a lot of people that flow between both of them. This is a little bit more of an exposure, and maybe there's some people that just didn't know that any of this was actual reference to real stuff in these games. So I'm glad to be the arbiter of that knowledge for you. And honestly, I don't really have anything else to add on to the conversation. So if you found something informational in this video, please give it a thumbs up or whatnot. And if you completely hated this video, please leave me a mean comment and I'll make sure to hide your comment from my channel. That way I don't have to feel bad about it in the future. Anyway, thank you guys very much for making it all the way through this video, and give yourself a pat on the back. You've earned it. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.